The wrench slipped from my greasy fingers as my phone buzzed against the concrete floor of my garage. 3 a.m., and I was still under the hood of Mrs. Patterson's ancient Honda, trying to make ends meet. The text was from a blocked number. "Your wife's laughing about you right now?" Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I wiped my hands on my coveralls and stared at the screen. Danny Morrison, 43 years old, owner of Morrison's Auto Repair, reduced to reading anonymous messages in the middle of the night. My back ached from bending over engines all day. My marriage was colder than a Minnesota winter, and now some stranger was playing games with my head. But then I saw Emily's phone on my workbench. She'd left it behind when she stormed out after our latest fight about money. The screen was still lit up, showing a group chat called Girls Night Out Forever. Sophie. OMGM blocked Danny on everything. Finally. Jessica. About time. He's such a loser with that dirty garage. Rachel. Wait till she tells Derek about the blocking. He'll be so relieved. Sophie. Poor Danny has no idea what's coming. This is better than Netflix. My chest tightened. Derek. Emily had mentioned that name exactly 3 times in the past month, always followed by just a client and a quick change of subject. I scrolled up through weeks of messages, my hands shaking slightly. Emily. Danny's working late again. Perfect timing for Derek's call. Sophie. Girl, you're playing with fire. What if he finds out? Emily. He won't. He's too busy with his precious cars to notice anything. The messages painted a picture I'd been too stupid or too tired to see. Late nights at the office. Weekend team-building exercises. The new clothes, the sudden interest in expensive perfume, the way she'd started sleeping on the far edge of our bed like I had some contagious disease. I set the phone down carefully, my mind racing. 20 years of marriage. 20 years of me busting my ass to keep food on the table while she climbed the corporate ladder at Hartwell & Associates. And this was my reward. The garage felt smaller suddenly, the familiar smell of motor oil and rust suffocating instead of comforting. I looked around at my kingdom of broken-down cars and half-finished repairs. This was my world, and apparently it wasn't enough for Emily Morrison. My phone buzzed again. Another block number. Check her Venmo history. Someone was feeding me information, but I didn't care about their motives anymore. I grabbed Emily's phone and opened her apps. Her Venmo showed payments to Sophie I'd never heard about. Spa day cover story, hotel room split. Thanks for the alibi. The pieces clicked together like a perfectly tuned engine. Sophie wasn't just Emily's best friend, she was her accomplice. And Derek wasn't just a client, he was the reason my wife had been treating me like yesterday's garbage for months. I walked outside into the cool night air, my garage's neon sign casting red shadows across the empty street. Our house sat 3 blocks away, a modest 2-story we'd bought when we still believed in forever. Emily's car wasn't in the driveway. She was probably at Derek's place right now, laughing about how clueless her husband was. But I wasn't clueless anymore. I pulled out my own phone and did what any self-respecting man would do in 2023. I started investigating. Derek Carlisle, according to LinkedIn, was a senior marketing director at some tech company downtown. His Instagram was public, full of photos from expensive restaurants and weekend trips to places I couldn't afford to visit. And there, in a photo from last weekend, was my wife. She was tagged as Emily M. instead of using her full name, but I'd know that smile anywhere. They were at some fancy lakeside resort, the kind of place that charged more for one night than I made in a week. The caption read, "Amazing weekend with amazing company. Blessed Sharon, lake life, perfect moments." Emily had told me she was at a mandatory company retreat, a team-building weekend with just the girls from accounting. I'd even packed her a lunch for the bus ride. I screenshotted everything, my thumbs moving faster than my brain could process the betrayal. Photo after photo of my wife living a secret life with a man who probably spent more on his haircuts than I made in a month. My phone rang. Emily. "Danny? I saw my phone was missing. I'm coming to get it." Her voice was tight, nervous. She knew I might find something, but she probably figured I was too tired or too trusting to go looking. "It's here at the shop," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I was wondering where you were. It's pretty late." "I told you, I'm at Sophie's. We're planning the charity auction for next month." Another lie. Sophie's Instagram story from an hour ago showed her at home with her husband, watching some Netflix series. Right, the charity auction. Sounds important? It is important, Danny. Some of us care about giving back to the community. The dig was subtle but sharp. Emily had perfected the art of making me feel small without saying anything directly insulting. It was a skill she'd developed over the past few years, right around the time my business started struggling and her career started taking off. "I'll leave the phone on the counter," I said. "Lock up when you get it." "Thank you. And Danny? Try to get some sleep. You look exhausted all the time lately." She hung up before I could respond. I stared at the phone, wondering how long she'd been this person. When had my wife become someone who could lie so easily, who could look me in the eye and smile while planning her next betrayal? I had maybe 20 minutes before she arrived, 20 minutes to decide what kind of man I was going to be, the kind who pretended not to know and slowly died inside, or the kind who fought back. I chose option 2. I forwarded the most damning screenshots to my own phone, then deleted the evidence from her message history. Let her think she was still safe, still smarter than her blue-collar husband who smelled like motor oil and couldn't afford to take her to fancy restaurants. But I was done being underestimated. Emily arrived exactly 18 minutes later, her heels clicking nervously across my garage floor. She was dressed too well for a night at Sophie's house. Designer jeans, a silk blouse I'd never seen before, and that expensive perfume that had become her signature scent over the past few months. "Found it," she said, grabbing her phone from the workbench. Her fingers moved quickly across the screen, checking for signs that I'd been snooping. "Everything okay?" I asked, wiping down a wrench I'd already cleaned twice. "Fine, just making sure I didn't miss any important messages." She looked up at me, and for a second I saw something that might have been guilt flicker across her face. "You should really get some sleep, Danny. This obsession with working all night isn't healthy." "Someone's got to pay the bills." "I pay bills too, you know. My salary covers more than half our expenses." There it was again, the reminder that she was the successful one, the one with the real job and the bright future. I'd heard variations of this speech so many times I could recite it from memory. "You're right," I said. "I don't know what I'd do without you." She smiled, probably thinking she'd won another small victory in whatever game she'd been playing. "I'll see you at home. Try not to stay here all night." After she left, I sat in my office chair and opened my laptop. If Emily thought she was the only one who could play games, she was about to learn something new about her husband. Derek Carlisle had left quite a digital footprint. His Facebook was more private than Instagram, but his Twitter account was a goldmine of information. He tweeted about his favorite restaurants, his weekend plans, even his workout schedule at some upscale gym downtown. More importantly, he tweeted complaints about his job, about traffic, about how hard it was to find genuine people in the city. 2 weeks ago, he'd posted, "Finally found someone who sees the real me. Sometimes the best things come when you're not looking." Grateful and Shock's new chapter. The timestamp matched perfectly with when Emily had started acting different, more confident, happier, but in a way that had nothing to do with me or our life together. I dug deeper, following the breadcrumbs of their digital affair. Emily's Instagram likes told a story. She'd been consistently liking Derek's photos for 3 months, always within minutes of him posting them. Her comments were subtle but flirty. "Looks amazing," on his dinner photos, "so jealous," on his vacation pictures. By 4 a.m., I had built a timeline of their relationship. It had started professionally. Derek's company had hired Emily's agency for a marketing campaign. But somewhere between the initial meeting and the campaign launch, things had turned personal. I found Derek's company directory and called the main number. The automated system let me leave a message for him without going through a receptionist. "Hi, Derek. This is Danny Morrison from Morrison's Auto Repair. My wife Emily mentioned you might need some work done on your car. I specialize in luxury vehicles and offer very competitive rates. Give me a call back when you get a chance." I left my number and hung up, wondering if he'd be stupid enough to call back. He was. My phone rang at 7:30 a.m., just as I was opening the garage for business. "This is Derek Carlisle. I got your message about car service." His voice was smooth, confident. The voice of a man who'd never had to worry about money or wonder if his wife was cheating on him. "That's right. Emily speaks very highly of you. Says you drive something German?" "A BMW. But I'm not sure Emily mentioned needing car service. When did you two discuss this?" I could hear the confusion in his voice, maybe a hint of panic. "Good." "Oh, you know Emily. She's always thinking ahead, always trying to help people connect. She mentioned you were looking for a reliable mechanic." "I see?" "Well, I appreciate the call, but I have a service contract through the dealership." "Of course you do. Those are expensive, though, aren't they? Emily mentioned you are very successful, but even successful people like to save money where they can." There was a long pause. Derek was trying to figure out how much I knew, how much Emily had told me about him. "I think there might be some confusion here," he said finally. "Emily and I have a professional relationship. I'm not sure why she'd be discussing my personal business with you." "Professional relationship? Right." I let the words hang in the air for a moment. "Well, if you change your mind about the car service, you know where to find me. Emily can give you directions." I hung up before he could respond, smiling for the first time in weeks. Derek was rattled, and rattled people made mistakes. My next call was to Rob Hendricks, my oldest friend and the owner of Hendricks Bar 3 blocks from my garage. Rob had been a cop for 15 years before opening his bar, and he still had connections throughout the city. "Danny, what's got you up so early? Usually you're not coherent before noon." "I need a favor, Rob, and maybe some advice." "This about Emily. You've been looking like hell lately." Rob had always been direct. It was one of the things I liked about him, and one of the reasons Emily had never warmed up to him. She said he was crude and inappropriate for someone your age to be friends with. "Emily's cheating on me." The words came out easier than I'd expected. Rob was quiet for a moment, then sighed. "You sure? I mean, really sure." "I'm sure." "What do you want to do about it?" That was Rob. No false sympathy, no empty reassurances that I might be wrong. Just straight to the practical question. "I want to make them pay for it, both of them." "Them?" "Emily and her boyfriend Derek, and probably Sophie too, since she's been helping cover for them." Rob was quiet again, thinking. "You know I can't help you do anything illegal, right? My liquor license depends on me staying clean." "I'm not talking about anything illegal. I'm talking about making sure they face consequences for what they've done." "Consequences like what?" I looked around my garage, at the honest work I'd been doing while my wife was building a secret life with another man. I'm still figuring that out, but I'm done being the fool in this story. "All right, come by the bar tonight after you close up. We'll talk through your options." After I hung up, I spent the morning working on actual cars and thinking about my next moves. Derek was already nervous, which meant he'd probably call Emily to ask about our conversation. That would put Emily on edge, maybe make her sloppy. Around noon, my son Alex called. He was a junior at State University, studying business and working part-time at a restaurant near campus. Alex was the one good thing Emily and I had created together, and I'd die before I let this mess hurt him. "Hey, Dad, weird question. Is Mom okay?" My stomach tightened. "Why do you ask?" "She called me this morning, asking if I'd talked to you lately. She seemed really anxious about something, and she kept asking if you'd mentioned anyone named Derek." Emily was panicking. Derek had definitely called her after our conversation. "Your mom's fine, son. Just stressed about work." "Okay, good. I was worried you guys were having problems again." Again. Alex had noticed the tension between Emily and me, had probably been worrying about it for months while I was too blind to see what was happening in my own house. "Everything's fine, Alex. Focus on your studies." But everything wasn't fine, and it was about to get much worse, for Emily and Derek. That evening at Rob's bar, I laid out everything I'd discovered. Rob listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or shaking his head. The bar was mostly empty, just a few regulars watching baseball and nursing their beers. "So what's your plan?" Rob asked when I finished. "I want to expose them, publicly. I want everyone to know what kind of people they really are." "That's dangerous territory, Danny. Emily's got a good job, connections. She could make your life hell if you embarrass her." "She's already making my life hell. At least this way, I'm fighting back." Rob poured himself a whiskey and slid one across to me. "All right, let's say you go nuclear on this. What's your end game? You want her back? You want a divorce? You just want revenge?" I thought about it, swirling the whiskey in my glass. "I want them to lose everything they think makes them better than me. Emily's so proud of her career, her reputation, her perfect image. Derek thinks he's hot shit because he's got money and drives a fancy car. I want all of that gone. And then what? Then I'll figure out what comes next." Rob studied me for a long moment. "You're not the same guy who came in here crying about Emily 6 months ago." 6 months ago, Emily and I had gone through a rough patch, or what I'd thought was a rough patch. She'd been distant and critical, and I'd been desperate to fix whatever was wrong. I'd even suggested marriage counseling, which she'd dismissed as unnecessary drama. Now I knew she'd already been with Derek by then. The distance hadn't been about our marriage problems. It had been about her guilt over her affair. 6 months ago, I thought I was the problem," I said. "Now I know better." Rob nodded slowly. "Okay, I'm in. What do you need?" "Information. Derek works at Pinnacle Marketing Solutions downtown. I want to know everything about him. His schedule, his habits, his weaknesses. I can ask around. What else? Emily's agency is handling some big campaign launch next month. She's been working late every night, supposedly. I want to know if she's actually at the office or if she's with Derek. That's easy enough. My cousin Jerry does security for half the downtown buildings. I'll have him check the logs. We spent the next hour planning my campaign. Rob had contacts throughout the city, former cops, security guards, bartenders who heard everything. Within a week, I'd have enough information to destroy both Emily and Derek's carefully constructed lives. But I didn't have to wait a week for my first opportunity. The next morning, Emily was getting ready for work when her phone rang. She answered it quickly, walking into the bathroom and closing the door. But our house was old, and the walls were thin. "Derek, you can't call me here. I know he called you, but I handled it. No, he doesn't know anything, because he's not smart enough to figure it out." I stood outside the bathroom door, recording everything on my phone. Tonight won't work. Danny's been suspicious lately. Tomorrow. Sophie's covering for me again. I know, baby, I miss you too. When she came out of the bathroom, I was sitting at the kitchen table reading the newspaper like nothing had happened. "Who was that?" I asked casually. "Work. Crisis with the Henderson account." Another lie. The Henderson account had been completed 2 months ago. "Sounds stressful. Maybe you should take a vacation when this project is finished." Emily paused, her coffee mug halfway to her lips. "A vacation?" "Sure. You've been working so hard lately. Maybe a long weekend somewhere nice. You deserve it." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "That's sweet of you to think of me, Danny. But I can't take time off right now. Too many important clients depending on me." Important clients, like Derek. After Emily left for work, I drove downtown to Derek's office building. Pinnacle Marketing Solutions occupied 3 floors of a glass tower that probably cost more to rent each month than I made in 6 months. I parked across the street and waited. At 11:47 a.m., Derek emerged from the building's parking garage in his silver BMW. I followed him, staying several cars back, curious about where he spent his lunch breaks. He drove to Riverside Park, the same park where Emily and I had gotten engaged 21 years ago. Derek parked near the walking trails and sat on a bench overlooking the river. 5 minutes later, Emily's Honda pulled up beside his BMW. I parked behind a maintenance shed and watched through binoculars I'd borrowed from Rob. Emily got out of her car and sat beside Derek on the bench. They talked for a few minutes, then Derek put his arm around her shoulders. Emily leaned into him, smiling in a way I hadn't seen in years. They looked happy together, genuinely happy, and that hurt worse than all the lies and sneaking around. But it also gave me an idea. I took photos of them together, making sure to get clear shots of both their faces. Then I drove back to my garage and uploaded the photos to a fake Facebook account I'd created that morning. The account belonged to Mike Stevens, a fictional photographer who specialized in candid relationship portraits. I posted the photos with a caption, "Beautiful couple enjoying a perfect afternoon at Riverside Park. Love is everywhere if you know where to look. Right into candid moments. One true love to Riverside Park." Then I tagged the location and made the post public. Within an hour, the post had been shared 6 times. By the end of the day, it had been shared 23 times and had 47 likes. Emily's coworkers would see it, Derek's friends would see it, and eventually everyone would know that Emily Morrison was cheating on her husband with Derek Carlisle. But that was just the beginning. That evening, Emily came home in a panic. "Danny, we need to talk." "Sure, what's on your mind?" "Someone posted photos of me online today. Photos from when I was having lunch with a client." "That's weird. What kind of photos?" Emily showed me her phone. The Facebook post had been shared 68 times now, and the comments were getting interesting. "Isn't that Emily Morrison?" someone had written. "I thought she was married." "She is married," someone else had replied. "I know her husband. He owns that auto shop on 5th Street. "Oh, wow. This is awkward." Emily was reading the comments, her face getting paler by the minute. "I don't understand why someone would post these," she said. "It was just a business lunch." "Business lunch, huh? You and this client look pretty comfortable together." "Derek and I have a good working relationship. We were just discussing the campaign." "Derek, right. The same Derek who called me about car service yesterday." Emily's eyes widened. "He called you?" "Yeah, said you'd recommended me. Funny thing, though, he seemed surprised that you'd mentioned him to me at all." Emily set her phone down carefully, her hands shaking slightly. "Danny, I can explain." "Explain what? That you've been lying to me for months? That you've been meeting your boyfriend in the same park where we got engaged? That your best friend has been helping you cover it up?" The words came out calmly, which seemed to scare Emily more than if I'd been yelling. "It's not what you think," she said quietly. "Really? Then what is it?" Emily looked around our kitchen, at the modest home we'd built together, at the life that apparently wasn't enough for her anymore. "I made a mistake," she said finally. "A mistake that's been going on for months? A mistake you've been planning and lying about and celebrating with your friends?" "How do you know about my friends?" I smiled, and Emily took a step back. "I know a lot of things, Em. The question is, what are you going to do about it?" She stared at me for a long moment, then straightened her shoulders. The guilty, apologetic Emily disappeared, replaced by the cold, calculating woman she'd become over the past year. "What do you want, Danny?" "I want you to tell Derek that your husband is smarter than either of you thought, and I want you to tell Sophie that her part in this is going to cost her too. Are you threatening me? I'm promising you, this is just the beginning." Emily grabbed her purse and headed for the door. "I'm staying at Sophie's tonight. Give her my regards." After she left, I sat in my kitchen and planned my next move. The Facebook post had been a warning shot, a way to let them know I was onto their game. But tomorrow, the real fun would begin. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Word about the Facebook photos had spread through Emily's social circle like wildfire, and everyone wanted to know what was happening. Most of the messages were from people I barely knew. Emily's coworkers, friends from her book club, neighbors who'd never bothered to learn my name. They were all fishing for information, pretending to be concerned while secretly hoping for juicy details they could share with their own friends. But 3 of the messages were different. The first was from my son, Alex. "Dad, call me. Mom's freaking out, and I don't understand what's happening." The second was from my brother Tom in Phoenix. "Saw some photos online. You okay?" The third was from Derek. "We need to talk. This has gone far enough." I called Alex first. "Dad, what the hell is going on? Mom called me crying at midnight, saying you were trying to destroy her life." "Your mother's been having an affair, son. I found out about it, and now she's dealing with the consequences." Alex was quiet for a long moment. "Are you sure? I mean, really sure?" "I'm sure." "Jesus, how long?" "At least 3 months, probably longer." "And you posted those photos online?" "I did." Another pause. "Dad, I know you're hurt, but this could get really messy. Mom's talking about lawyers." "Let her talk. I haven't done anything illegal." "Maybe not, but you're playing with fire here. What if this affects your business? What if people think you're crazy or vindictive?" Alex was worried about me, which meant more than he could know. But he was also young and still believed that being reasonable and taking the high road would somehow make everything work out. "I appreciate your concern, son, but your mother made her choices, and now she gets to live with them. What about you? What happens to you after all this is over?" I looked around my kitchen at the life Emily and I had built together. "I guess I'll figure that out as I go." After I hung up with Alex, I called Derek back. "Morrison." He sounded tired, defeated. "You wanted to talk?" "Not over the phone. Meet me at Riverside Park in an hour." "The same place where you've been meeting my wife?" Derek sighed. "Just be there." I arrived at the park early and sat on the same bench where I'd watched Emily and Derek together the day before. Derek showed up exactly on time, looking like he hadn't slept much. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, and his expensive suit was wrinkled. "This needs to stop," he said, sitting down beside me. "What needs to stop?" "The photos, the harassment, whatever game you're playing. Emily's career could be destroyed over this." "Emily's career? What about my marriage?" Derek looked out at the river, avoiding my eyes. "Look, I know this situation isn't ideal." "Situation? Is that what you call sleeping with another man's wife?" "It's complicated." "No, Derek, it's really not. You decided to screw my wife, and she decided to let you. The only complicated part is figuring out how to make you both pay for it." Derek turned to face me, and I saw something that looked like fear in his eyes. "What do you want? Money? I can write you a check right now." "You think this is about money?" "Isn't it? Emily said you were struggling financially, that your business was failing." The words hit like a punch to the gut. Emily had been discussing our private problems with her boyfriend, probably laughing about my failures while she was lying naked in his bed. "My business is fine," I said quietly. "And even if it wasn't, I wouldn't take a penny from you." "Then what do you want?" I stood up and looked down at Derek, this smooth-talking corporate climber who thought he could buy his way out of any problem. "I want you to understand that actions have consequences. You and Emily thought you were so smart, so much better than the dumb mechanic who wouldn't figure out what was happening. But here we are. I never said anything about you being dumb. You didn't have to. It was implied every time you laughed at Emily's stories about her clueless husband. Every time you told her she deserved better than what she had at home. Derek's face flushed red. Emily came to me, not the other way around. She was unhappy in her marriage long before I met her. And you were just helping her work through her problems, out of the goodness of your heart? We fell in love. It happens. Love. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You want to know what love is, Derek? Love is working 16-hour days to keep a roof over your family's head. Love is staying faithful even when things get tough. Love is not sneaking around behind your spouse's back with some corporate pretty boy. Derek stood up, his hands clenched into fists. For a moment, I thought he might actually try to hit me. I almost hoped he would. You don't know anything about Emily and me, he said. You don't know what we have together. I know you're about to lose it. Is that a threat? It's a promise. See, Derek, you made one crucial mistake in all this. You assumed I was too stupid or too weak to fight back. But I'm not stupid, and I'm definitely not weak. I'm just a guy who's been pushed too far. I walked away, leaving Derek standing alone by the river. As I got in my truck, I saw him pull out his phone, probably calling Emily to report on our conversation. Let him call. Let them both panic and scramble and try to figure out what I was planning next. Because the truth was, I was just getting started. That afternoon, I drove to Emily's office building. Hartwell and Associates occupied the entire 15th floor of a downtown high-rise, and Emily was proud of working for one of the city's most prestigious advertising agencies. I took the elevator to the 15th floor and walked up to the reception desk. I'm here to see Emily Morrison, I told the young woman behind the desk. Do you have an appointment? I'm her husband. The receptionist's eyes widened slightly. She'd probably heard the office gossip about the photos, about Emily's personal drama spilling into her professional life. Let me check if she's available. While she made the call, I looked around the office. Everything was sleek and modern, all glass and chrome and expensive furniture. This was Emily's world now, the place where she'd met Derek and started planning her new life. She'll see you in conference room B, the receptionist said. Down the hall, third door on the right. Emily was waiting for me when I walked into the conference room. She looked professional and composed, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the worry in her eyes. What are you doing here, Danny? I wanted to see where you work, where you met Derek. You're embarrassing me. People are staring. Good. Maybe they should know what kind of person you really are. Emily closed the conference room door and turned to face me. What do you want? I want you to quit. Quit? Are you insane? Quit your job, end your relationship with Derek, and maybe we can work through this. Emily laughed, but it sounded forced. You can't be serious. I'm not giving up my career because you're having a tantrum. Tantrum? Emily, you've been cheating on me for months. You've been lying to my face, making me look like a fool in front of our friends. And you think this is a tantrum? I think you're having some kind of breakdown. The photos, the harassment, showing up at my office. This isn't normal behavior, Danny? You're right. Normal behavior would be filing for divorce and taking half of everything you've worked for. Is that what you'd prefer? Emily's face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. We stared at each other across the conference table. 20 years of marriage reduced to a battle of wills. I'm not quitting my job, Emily said finally. And I'm not ending my relationship with Derek. Then you're choosing them over me. I'm choosing my happiness over your insecurity. I nodded slowly. Okay. Then we both know where we stand. As I walked toward the door, Emily called after me. Danny, wait. We can figure this out. We can go to counseling, work through our problems. I turned back to look at her one last time. 6 months ago, I would have done anything to save our marriage. But that was before I knew who you really were. I'm still the same person you married. No, Emily, you're not. The person I married wouldn't have done this. The person I married had integrity. I left her sitting alone in the conference room and took the elevator back down to the lobby. As I walked out of the building, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Relief. The marriage was over. Emily had made her choice, and now I was free to make mine, and my choice was war. Over the next week, I put Rob's information network to work. Within days, I knew Derek's schedule better than he did. I knew he went to Starbucks every morning at 7:15, had lunch at the same 3 restaurants, and went to his gym every Tuesday and Thursday evening. More importantly, I knew his weaknesses. Derek was vain. He spent more on clothes and grooming than most people spent on rent. He drove his BMW like it was an extension of his personality, and he treated service workers like they were invisible. Derek was also careless. He left his car unlocked in supposedly secure parking garages. He conducted personal phone calls in public places, and he had a habit of bragging about his conquests to anyone who would listen. Rob's bartender friends had been hearing Derek's stories for weeks, how he'd rescued Emily from her boring marriage, how easy it had been to seduce her, how grateful she was to finally be with a real man. The stories made me sick, but they also gave me ammunition. On Thursday evening, I followed Derek to his gym. It was one of those upscale fitness clubs where the membership cost more than most people's car payments. Derek worked out for exactly 45 minutes, then spent another 20 minutes in the sauna. While he was sweating out his toxins, I was in the parking garage with his BMW. I didn't damage the car. That would have been illegal, and I wasn't interested in giving Derek or Emily any reason to call the police. Instead, I did something much more effective. I covered his windshield with printouts of the Facebook photos, along with copies of text messages between Emily and Sophie discussing their cover stories. I used clear packing tape to attach everything, making sure it would be visible but not permanent. Then I waited. Derek emerged from the gym 20 minutes later, looking relaxed and confident. That confidence evaporated when he saw his car. He looked around the parking garage frantically, probably hoping no one else would see the display. But I'd timed it perfectly. The evening crowd was just arriving, and Derek's BMW was parked in a highly visible spot near the elevator. At least a dozen people saw Derek frantically trying to remove the photos and documents from his windshield. Several of them took pictures with their phones. By the time Derek got everything cleaned off, his face was red with embarrassment, and his expensive workout clothes were soaked with sweat. But I wasn't finished with Derek yet. The next day, I created another fake social media account, this time on LinkedIn. Professional Networking Solutions was a fictional consulting company that specialized in reputation management and career development. I sent Derek a connection request with a personalized message. Hi, Derek. I noticed some concerning posts about your professional conduct circulating on social media. Our company specializes in helping executives manage their online reputation during difficult periods. Would you be interested in a confidential consultation? Derek accepted the connection request within an hour and sent back a desperate message. Yes, I'm very interested. This situation is affecting my career, and I need help managing it professionally. Can we meet today? I suggested we meet at a coffee shop near his office. Derek agreed immediately. I arrived early and positioned myself at a table where I could see the entire cafe. Derek walked in exactly on time, looking around nervously for his reputation management consultant. After 10 minutes of waiting, Derek approached the barista. Excuse me, I'm supposed to meet someone here. A consultant from Professional Networking Solutions? The barista shrugged. Haven't seen anyone like that. Derek waited another 20 minutes, checking his phone constantly and growing more agitated by the minute. Finally, he left. I sent him another LinkedIn message. So sorry I missed our meeting. Family emergency came up. Can we reschedule for tomorrow? Derek replied within minutes. Of course. Same time and place? The next day, I repeated the process. Derek waited for 30 minutes this time before giving up. On the third day, I sent a different message. Derek, I've been researching your situation, and I'm afraid it's more serious than I initially thought. The photos and information circulating online suggest a pattern of unprofessional behavior that could significantly impact your career prospects. I'm not sure our company can help you at this point. Derek's response was frantic. Please, I need help with this. I'm willing to pay whatever it takes. My job is on the line. I didn't respond. Let Derek twist in the wind, wondering if his career was about to implode. While I was playing games with Derek, Emily was dealing with her own problems. The Facebook photos had been shared over 200 times now, and the story had reached most of her social circle. Her book club had indefinitely postponed their meetings. Her tennis partner had canceled their weekly games. Even her hairdresser had rescheduled her appointment. Emily was being socially ostracized, and she was panicking. She'd been calling me constantly, leaving voicemails that ranged from angry to pleading to threatening. I didn't return any of her calls. But on Friday evening, she showed up at my garage. Danny, this has to stop. I looked up from the engine I was working on. What has to stop? You know what? The photos, the harassment, the games you're playing with Derek, it's gone too far. Has it? I don't think it's gone nearly far enough. Emily stepped closer, and I could see she'd been crying. Her makeup was smudged, and her usually perfect hair was disheveled. You're destroying my life. I'm not destroying anything, Em. I'm just making sure people know the truth about who you really are. The truth? The truth is that our marriage has been dead for years. The truth is that we've been going through the motions, pretending to be happy when we're both miserable. Maybe you were miserable. I was trying to make things work. By working 18 hours a day and ignoring everything else? By treating me like a roommate instead of a wife? Emily's words stung because they contained a grain of truth. I had been working too much, neglecting our relationship, but that didn't justify what she'd done. So your solution was to cheat on me instead of talking to me about our problems? I tried to talk to you. You were always too tired or too busy or too stressed about money. And Derek was a better listener? Emily's face crumpled. Derek made me feel alive again. He made me remember who I used to be before I became just another small-town housewife married to a mechanic. There it was. The truth Emily had been hiding behind all her justifications and excuses. She was ashamed of me, ashamed of our life together, ashamed of who she'd become by staying married to me. Well, now you don't have to be ashamed anymore, I said quietly. You can be whoever you want to be with Derek. It's not that simple. Derek's having second thoughts. All this publicity, the drama. It's affecting his career, too. He's talking about taking a job in another city. And you're afraid he'll leave without you. Emily nodded miserably. I gave up everything for him. My marriage, my reputation, my friendships. If he leaves, you'll have nothing. I'll have nothing. I should have felt sorry for her. 20 years of marriage should have counted for something, but all I felt was a cold satisfaction. That's what happens when you bet everything on the wrong horse, Em. Emily looked at me with something that might have been hatred. You used to be a good man, Danny. What happened to you? I learned that being a good man doesn't protect you from bad people. She turned and walked away, her heels echoing in the empty garage. I watched her go, wondering if I'd ever see her again, but I wasn't done with my revenge yet. Derek and Emily had destroyed my marriage and humiliated me in front of the entire city. They deserved everything that was coming to them, and what was coming was going to be spectacular. The charity auction Emily had been planning was scheduled for Saturday night at the Riverside Country Club. It was the social event of the season, with tickets costing $500 each and most of the city's elite in attendance. Emily had been looking forward to this event for months, back when she thought she'd be attending as Derek's date, showing off her new relationship to everyone who mattered. But Derek had other plans. On Wednesday, Rob's network delivered the intelligence I'd been waiting for. Derek had interviewed for a position with a marketing firm in Seattle. He told his current employer he was exploring new opportunities and had been quietly liquidating his local investments. Derek was preparing to run, and he wasn't planning to take Emily with him. I confirmed this by calling Derek's office and pretending to be a reference checker from the Seattle company. This is Brad Mitchell from Cascade Marketing. We're completing our background check on Derek Carlisle and wanted to verify his current employment status. Mr. Carlisle is still employed here, but he's given his 2 weeks' notice, Derek's assistant told me. His last day is next Friday. And will his family be relocating with him? Family? Mr. Carlisle isn't married. It's just him making the move. Perfect. Derek was about to abandon Emily, leaving her with nothing but the wreckage of her old life. But I wasn't going to let him slink away quietly. I had something special planned for the charity auction. On Saturday afternoon, I put on my best suit, the same one I'd worn to our wedding 20 years ago, and drove to the country club. I wasn't attending the auction, but I had business there. The country club's event coordinator was a woman named Patricia Wells, someone I'd known since high school. Patricia had always been friendly to me, even after Emily started treating our old friends like they weren't good enough for her new social circle. Danny Morrison, what brings you here? Hi, Patricia. I wanted to make a donation to tonight's auction. That's wonderful. What kind of donation? I handed her a manila envelope. It's a photo collection. Pictures from some of our city's most prominent couples. I thought people might bid on them as conversation pieces. Patricia opened the envelope and looked at the photos inside. Her eyes widened. Danny, I can't auction these. These are pictures of my wife with her boyfriend, I know. But they're also pictures of two people who've been lying to everyone in this room for months. Don't you think the truth is worth something? Patricia looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and concern. This isn't the way to handle this, Danny. Maybe not, but it's my way. I left the envelope with Patricia and walked back to my truck. She could do whatever she wanted with the photos. Either way, Emily's perfect evening was about to become a nightmare. But I had one more surprise planned. At 7 o'clock, I called Derek's cell phone. What do you want, Morrison? I wanted to congratulate you on your new job in Seattle. Derek was quiet for a moment. How did you find out about that? I find out about everything, Derek. That's what you never understood. You thought I was just some dumb mechanic who wouldn't figure out what was happening, but I've been 3 steps ahead of you this whole time. What's your point? My point is that Emily doesn't know you're leaving, does she? She's probably getting ready for the auction right now, thinking she's going to show up as your date and make everything official. That's between Emily and me. Is it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're about to do to Emily exactly what she did to me. You're going to abandon her without warning and leave her to deal with the consequences alone. Derek sighed. It's complicated. No, Derek. It's not complicated at all. You got what you wanted from Emily, and now you're moving on to the next conquest. The only difference is that Emily won't see it coming until it's too late. Why are you telling me this? I thought you hated Emily. I do hate Emily, but I hate cowards even more. I hung up and drove to the country club's parking lot. I wanted to watch the fireworks from a safe distance. At 8:30, Derek's BMW pulled into the parking lot. He sat in his car for several minutes, probably working up the courage to break Emily's heart. At 8:45, Emily's Honda arrived. She was dressed in a stunning red dress I'd never seen before, probably bought specifically for this evening. She looked beautiful and confident, ready to make her debut as Derek's official girlfriend. She walked over to Derek's car and got in. I could see them talking, but I couldn't hear what they were saying. After a few minutes, Emily got out of the car and started walking toward the country club entrance. Derek drove away without her. Emily stood in the parking lot for a long moment, watching Derek's taillights disappear into the night. Then she straightened her shoulders and walked into the country club alone. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. At 9:15, my phone buzzed with a text from Patricia. You win, Danny. I'm auctioning the photos, lot number 47. I smiled and started my truck. My work here was done. On Monday morning, the story was all over town. The charity auction had raised more money than any previous year, largely thanks to the bidding war over Lot 47, a collection of photographs that exposed one of the city's most scandalous affairs. Emily's boss had fired her that morning. Derek's company had mutually agreed to accelerate his departure date. Sophie's husband had filed for divorce after learning about her role in covering up the affair. All 3 of them had lost everything that mattered to them, their jobs, their reputations, their futures in this city. And I was just getting started. But as I sat in my garage that evening, working on Mrs. Patterson's Honda again, I realized something had changed. The anger that had been driving me for weeks was gone, replaced by something that felt almost like peace. Emily had been right about one thing. Our marriage had been dying long before Derek came along. We'd both been going through the motions, pretending to be happy when we were really just existing in the same space. The difference was that I'd been willing to work on our problems. Emily had chosen to run away from them. Now she was gone, Derek was gone, and I was alone with the wreckage of my old life. But for the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. My phone rang. It was Alex. Dad, I heard what happened at the auction. Are you okay? I'm fine, son. Better than fine, actually. Mom called me. She's pretty upset. I'm sure she is. She's talking about moving away, starting over somewhere else. That's probably for the best. Alex was quiet for a moment. Dad, I know she hurt you, but don't you think you've gone far enough? I mean, she's lost everything. She made her choices, Alex. I just made sure she faced the consequences. And now what? What happens next? I looked around my garage at the honest work that had sustained me through the worst period of my life. Now I rebuild, and this time I do it right. After I hung up with Alex, I walked outside and looked up at the stars. For the first time in years, the future felt full of possibilities instead of obligations. Emily and Derek had thought they were so smart, so much better than everyone else. They'd thought they could lie and cheat and manipulate without consequences. They'd been wrong, and now everyone in the city knew exactly what kind of people they really were. I'd won.